Hey, what's up? I'm Val. I'm a full-time reseller, primarily on eBay. I started this channel to help educate and inspire other resellers. Also happy to share with shoppers or really anybody who has any interest in what I'm doing. I know when I first started, I leaned very heavily on YouTube to help me figure out how to resell. And so now I just want to give back in the same way that I learned. So without further ado, this will be a weekly series for me. I'm going to be sharing just the weekend sales. This is for the first weekend, and these are what's sold in my shop. Number one, I have Wheeling's Frontier Era, Tales of Wheeling's Frontier Era, the Heroic Age. This was part of a Native American book lot that I purchased at a local auction. I got 6-7 boxes of books, something along those lines, quite a few books. And so how I do that, I typically take my buy cost of the entire lot and then divide it out by the number of listings I got. In this case, in order to do this video, I wanted to be able to share some numbers, so I just assigned an arbitrary buy cost of $1, which would typically be high for books at auction, maybe not at like the thrift store, but at auction. However, I did pay up for this lot because there's one really great listing I'm going to get out of it. I haven't not yet made that listing, but that justified the cost. So I have $1 buy cost on this book. That is an estimation. I will be able to get a more exact figure for that, but it's pretty close. Anyway, all right, so that sold on eBay, $55.79. They paid $6.55 for shipping, so total $62.34. After the shipping, which actually cost me $6.15, the platform fees $10.45. My net profit on this item was $44.74, and it sold in 3 days. Great. I'm happy with that. And that gives me about a 71% margin and 98% ROI, which I'm super happy with. Moving on, I have a Lemax power adapter. This is for Christmas light displays or similar. And this was also purchased in a holiday auction lot. Back in actually the end of 2023, I got this, and I, believe it or not, still have items from this lot to list. The lady was an avid Department 56 and holiday display collector. I mean, like department store level collection, wild. So I got a huge, actually I think there were two huge, large size totes of power supply cords for Christmas light displays, the bulbs, all different kinds, any kind of power display or excuse me, power supply that you could need for those. I have plenty. And as I said, I still have some to list. So this is also another example. Since I am an auction buyer for a lot of my stuff, you have to kind of figure out how to attribute your costs when you're buying a ton of stuff at once and then splitting it into many small pieces. So this I assigned a buy cost of $1.97. That is also not accurate because that $1.97 represents how many listings I got at the time that I closed out my books for the end of 2024, which is when these were listed. So I have had these for a while. They do sell all year, actually, but now we're in October, so I am seeing a surge in my power cords for sure. So anyway, long story, sorry. Everything comes with one, apparently. I have $1.97 buy cost on these, and I sold them for $14.99. They paid $6.55 in shipping on these as well, and shipping cost me $5.86. eBay took $3.33, And I also had a promotion on it, so 50 cents more to that. I promote all of my items across my store at 2%. So my net profit on this one cord was $10. And like I said, I literally got hundreds of them. They are slow to sell, so it took 528 days since I listed this, but it is a seasonal item. That's really not concerning to me just based upon the type of item it is. So I would encourage you to pick up those power cords, but I am finding that lotting them up in some cases is the key. Not with this specific item, but with many. And I don't have any others from this weekend, but I actually have one that I just shipped out. So anyway, margin on that, 46%, and the ROI would be 86%. And like I said, I have hundreds of them, so I am happy with those numbers. Next up is the Ninja 72-ounce pitcher. It is an old style pitcher, which is something to note. So you'll see here in my picture, these pitchers have straight sides. The new style Ninja pitchers have a lip, and they're like, you know, a little bump out. So it affects both the lid as well as the pitcher itself. I do sell a lot of parts, and this one was actually, I didn't even know about it until I listed this, that there was an old style and a new style. So I would say definitely seek out the old style. These both went pretty quickly. So I paid $232 for this part in particular, and that's after buying the blender and then breaking it into 3 lots and dividing that cost. This sold for $43.99 and $9.25 in shipping. It cost me $10.73 to ship, so I actually went a little in the negative on that. And platform fees were $7.72, no promo fee on that. So my net profit is $32.47, and that took 44 days, 94% ROI. Happy with that. Next up is a Watch Me Grow vintage wooden growth chart. This I purchased at the thrift store for $2.14. It did sit a while, about 6 months-ish. And it was purchased for $17.99. They paid $18.85 in shipping, so my total revenue was $36.84. Shipping actually cost me $7, which I got lucky. I always estimate my shipping high, and usually I am more than comfortable. Every once in a while I'm low. As you saw previously, I lost about $1. But it all washes out in the end, so I don't really stress on shipping too much. So yeah, my total net profit on that was $21.13. It took about 6 months to sell, like I said, and 88% ROI, so I'm happy with that. Next up, this was an auction buy. It was a single item lot. Alice Cooper concert merch panda bear with certificate of insanity that is signed. I bought it for $9.27, and that was back in about a year ago, 2024 September. And I sold it for $69.99, $10.40 in shipping. After shipping, which was about $7, and eBay fees $11.35, plus a promo fee of $1.72. My net profit on that is $51.04. It took basically a year to sell, and my margin was 63% and ROI 86%. So even though it took a while, I'm good with that. And it's not like it's a cumbersome, difficult item, so I'm cool. Next up, this was not a great buy at all. This is a Brother P-Touch laminated wire labeling tape. This I got for $2.13. This was, I was about a year into reselling at this point, so Probably should have known better by then. I bought it for $213 and sold it for $11.99 free ship, which I hate to do, but sometimes the item necessitates it, as was the case here. It cost me $5.37 to ship, and the platform took $2.06 and then another 26 cents on the promo side. So my net profit was $2.17, which truly, I guess, shouldn't be anything to get mad about, since my investment was $2.13 to begin with. My goal is always 10x or better on my money. Now, that when I first started, that wasn't really the case. I didn't have a benchmark that I was trying to hit. I was just buying, what I thought was good at the time. So now, knowing better, I'm still selling through some of my old stuff, so this would be the case. So I did double my money in the end, but I typically don't like to do much more than, it really does depend on the item though. If it's super easy to list and store and it's a small item, then yeah, it's fine. If I don't have to spend a lot of time, testing and photographing and like I said, easy to list, easy to ship, then yeah, maybe I'll take those slower movers or the weaker ROIs, but typically this is not something I would buy now, so avoid the Brother P-Touch. But inks, printers, and labels, printing supplies rather, and labels can be lucrative, but definitely check your numbers and don't think that you're going to beat what you're seeing. So I don't really know what I was thinking when I bought that, but that was not the move. Next up, this one's cool. This is an X Factor Headstrom 6-foot blue powder coated steel skate park grind rail. This was new in a box, and I thought it would be the perfect Christmas gift for somebody. I listed it at the beginning of Q4 last year, and then it just sat and sat and sat. I got it for $6.47. This was a Goodwill find. I sold it for $89.99, $24.99 in shipping. Shipping actually cost $14.07, and platform took $16.02. So my net profit on that was $78.42, and it took 400 days. It was an awkward item, so 400 days is kind of not great, but it is what it is. The ROI was 92%, and my margin on that was 68%. So all things considered, I can't really be too mad at that. Next up, DeBuyer Bain Marie 1810 stainless steel double boiler pot. This sits on top of another pot, I imagine. I couldn't really actually figure it out because I've double boiled plenty of things in my day, and I don't, it's got to go on top of something else. There's no water in the chamber, so I don't know. But it's definitely a high-end piece of cookware. I got this at Volunteers of America. I paid $9.64. Sold it for $48.99 plus $10.40 in shipping. And shipping cost me $7.60. Platform fees were $8.68 and promo fees $1.30. So my net profit on this was $32.17. So, not the best buy either, but it sold relatively quickly, about 50 days. So, I prefer to sell things 30 and under, but I'll take 50. And it was an 80% ROI, 54% margin, which is definitely a little low. But it was pretty easy to deal with, so I would buy that again. Next up, I've got the J.R.R. Tolkien Hobbit Authorized Edition Trilogy box sets. I think this was box set. I'm not looking at the picture. This was an early 1973 release from Ballantine Books. This is an auction that I paid 23 cents for the 3 books. And they sold for $13.99 plus $6.55 in shipping. Shipping cost me $6.73, and platform fees were just over $4 after the promo fee. So I made $9.38 on that. it took about 500 days. So this, when I bought this book lot, when you're looking at the auction pictures, like oftentimes they'll just take a picture of the cabinet, so you're just kind of guessing about the addition. Like you can see the spine, so you have an idea what you're in for, but you really don't know exactly what you're getting. So this wasn't a great early edition, or the one that I was hoping for. So it was meh, decent. So I made $9, $9.38. Took 545 days, and my ROI was 98%, but my margin was only 45, so definitely low. Next up, parts. So I do a lot of parts. I have a lot of things to part out. Actually, I'm surrounded by things to part out. Parting out is kind of a pain because first you have to test whatever the machine is, make sure it's working, and then you have to take it apart. That can be easy. It could just mean like unscrewing one thing, or it could be really difficult where you have to just like crack into the housing of something, and we've had some injuries. I'm not gonna lie, it can be tricky. You definitely need some different screwdrivers and that kind of things, because some of the manufacturers will use the star or a few different screw heads just to make it harder so people can't crack into them. Keurigs, higher end espresso machines, those are the ones that I go for in the coffee space. Hamilton Beach sometimes, those are usually more of a carafe situation. But it's the Keurigs that typically I'll get like 30 parts off of a Keurig or better. So you're pulling water pumps, you're pulling boilers, you're pulling tubing, power cords, the shrouds, the water tank, the drip tray, the basket, the piercing needle, the gaskets, the circuit board, the heating elements, frothing base, etc. So there can be a lot of parts. So this one is a sensor board. It came out of a Keurig 2.0 400. I paid, after I got all the parts out of my machine, it ran about 80 cents a part, which is not bad, and sold it for $10. So, you know, your buy cost is low when you buy, let's say, a $10 coffee maker. That's a garage sale price, by the way, because Savers now likes to charge like 15 to 30 for most coffee makers. It wasn't like that before. So I do pick up cheaper coffee makers that part out well when I see them. So anyway, so $80 was the buy cost on that, or excuse me, 80 cents rather, after you divide out all the parts you got. Sold it for 10. This was a free ship. Shipping cost me $6.59, and platform fees were $1.75. So I only doubled my money on that, 86 cents. A lot of times you'll have like certain parts that'll be good and other parts that are just fill, and they will sit. Like this one sat a year, 367 days. So my margin and my days to sell are not great on this, but I still have a 92% ROI. And you know, selling all the little parts that take forever kind of pay for the cost of the machine, or help pay for the cost of the machine, and make those bigger parts that are your $20 and $30 sales all the more profitable. So yeah, as long as you don't take too long or injure yourself taking apart the said item. Okay, next up, this is Kids 2 Baby Minnie Mouse Vibrating Bouncer Activity Bar Only. This one, man, this lady put me through the ringer. So right after I listed it, I get this message, and she tells me about how she just bought, is this the bouncer? I just bought it on Marketplace. I didn't come with the toy bar. I'm looking for the toy bar. Yes, it is. That's it. Yep. Well, she did not like my price, so she did everything she could to haggle me down. And then this toy bar, oftentimes they're flexible. This one was not, which I didn't really realize when I listed. So I was low on shipping. So not only did I go back and forth with her about 68 times to get her anywhere near what I was asking on price, but my shipping was low, so I lost a bunch of money there. So just goes to show that even when you've been reselling full-time for years, you still have not great ones. Luckily, this was a free item. I actually grabbed this. Somebody had the bouncer out on garbage day, and the bouncer itself was really gross and yucky, and it was just so stained. I did not want to deal with it, but the toy bar I thought would sell, and it did. I should have just held out and let her wait until she was ready to pay the extra $5, and it wouldn't have been as awful as it was. But anyway, so she paid $11.99 and $7.32 in shipping. It actually cost me $13.50 to ship, and she was not that far away from me. She was only like 3 states away. And then the platform took $2.94, and she found me on a promo listing, so that was another 40 cents. So when all said and done, I only made $2.50, but man, I worked hard for that $2.50. I earned every cent of those, all of those 250 pennies. I earned hard. Next up, Kenmore 30-inch range hood, white open box. This is ducted or ductless. I found this at Savers. Paid $10.71. Believe that was on a Monday, so they wanted double that, so I got it for half price at $10.71. That includes the sales tax I paid. I sold it for $83.69 and $32.65 in shipping. It actually cost me $26.04 to ship, and the platform took $16.36. So my net profit was $63.23. That took almost exactly a year, which I've been getting rid of some really old stuff, and I am not mad about it. 54% margin and 87% ROI. So decent enough. I will take it. Yes, I would buy that again, even though it's a little cumbersome. St. Joseph Sunday Missal from 1963. This is a pocket-sized little hymnal type book. I got this at Savers for $1, and I sold it for $11 plus $5.70 in shipping. Cost me $2.39 because this person bought actually 3 books from me, so I was able to divide up the cost of the shipping between the next 3 packages that I'm going to mention. So platform fee was $3.06. I also got hit with a promo fee on all of them, which sucks. So another 35 cents on the promo fee. Net profit $9.83. And that was a 90% ROI, 58% margin. And it took about 6 months on that book. He also bought the next book, which was part of the Native American book lot that I just listed. It's called Wabash, 1791, St. Clair's Defeat. This is a book, obviously, relative to the wars happening at that time in Wabash, Wisconsin, I assume. $1 I paid for that, and I sold for $8. I did take an offer on that. I had it at, I think, $9.99. I took an $8 offer because he was buying 3. So all of these prices on these 3 books, I did accept best offers on all 3 of them because he was bundling. $6.55 in shipping. He did not request that I combine his shipping, and I have done it gratuitously for people in the past, and nobody even really cared. So now I don't do it unless somebody asks for combined shipping. Then I just let them pay the shipping. So he paid $6.55 in shipping, so it's a good way for me to recoup what I'm saving by bundling. I'm saving the customer by bundling. $6.55 they paid for shipping on this, so I ended up netting $8.16. That was, I sold in 2 days. These Native American books are going awesome for me. 56% margin, 87% ROI. And then the last book that this one customer purchased was The Christ of Indian Road. This I got for free on a Facebook pickup. I picked up 8, 9, 10 boxes, I don't even know, of religious books of all different kinds, but mostly Christian and Catholic, but definitely evangelical, the whole spectrum. So anyway, this was from that, and they were all vintage. I paid nothing for the book, sold it for $10 plus shipping, $6.55. Shipping actually cost me $2.39, and the platform took $3.02 plus the promoted fees, another 34 cents. And that book actually I've had listed for 666 days. So that is an example of a book that I was probably getting ready to pull, just because it's like, well, this is bogging down my algorithm and probably never gonna sell, and then it sold. So I netted $10.80, and my margin was 65%, and my ROI is at 100 because my investment is at 0. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful to somebody, and hopefully we'll get a little more polished as the series goes on. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time. Bye.